Hey, this is Kyle at ProjectionHub, and today I'm going to show you how to create a business plan for an HVAC company. Maybe you're trying to start your own business, or maybe you're trying to get a business loan or potentially raise investment, and you need to create, or maybe even just do internal planning. You need to create a business plan to produce to those individuals that are going to be reviewing it in hopes of trying to get approved for that financing or that funding. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go through this template here, that's HVAC business plan free template. You can get in the description below. I'm not going to write a whole business plan in front of you today. It's already pre-filled out with a fictitious example of AirTech Solutions in Little Rock, Arkansas. And so I'm going to show you, using this example, what the structure of the business plan can look like. And then the main thing I'm going to try to accomplish is there are 5 key points that I want to point out to you that can take your business plan from just okay to hopefully a high degree of likelihood that you can get approved for the funding you're looking for. So who is ProjectionHub? We've helped more than 50,000 small businesses create financial projections for their businesses, for business loan applications, pitch decks, business plans, planning purposes, you name it. And we've helped a lot of HVAC companies and just different service, repair, contractor type companies. That's the type of business we help actually a lot. And my previous work, before I was with ProjectionHub, I was actually a lender for an SBA, a Small Business Administration lender. And so we worked with a lot of small businesses to review loan applications for startups and small existing businesses. Again, we helped a lot of plumbers, electricians, HVAC companies review their business plans, prepared loan applications, and so reviewed hundreds and even thousands of applications and business plans through that process. So I'm going to try to apply that experience here to demonstrate some best practices as you're putting together your business plan. If at any point you like the video, give us a thumbs up. That really helps us here at ProjectionHub as a fellow small business. And if you like the content, you can subscribe to the channel. Not all of our content is going to be HVAC or like specialty subcontractor related, but lots of tips just in general about managing your business, growing your business, and things to look out for on the financial side of things. With that, we'll go ahead and jump in and get started. Okay, so why is your business plan necessary? Probably obvious because maybe someone asked you for it, and that's why you're here today to get one created. But for a business like an HVAC company, it's not so novel that your lender doesn't understand what the business is. They definitely understand what the business is. What they want to see in your business plan is your specific roadmap for how you're going to succeed. So the worst thing you can do in a business plan is making it too generic and too generalized and giving this impression that we're just going to start and it's going to work. Even though maybe that is the case, because in your experience, in your context, you have all this business ready to go and it'll be really easy for you to adapt that or adopt that. But they're not going to know that. And so the business plan doesn't need to educate them on the industry and the opportunity, but not the industry. What it needs to do is they want to see your plan. They want to see that what decisions you're going to make to get from point A to point B to point X, Y, and Z, and mitigate their risk on giving you the money that they're planning to. And so diving into things here, the table of contents, you can see the general overview of the business plan. Now you'll notice it's only 14 pages long. So if you were told to have a business plan, maybe that's a sigh of relief that you realize it doesn't have to be super long. But also many people are under the impression that their business plan needs to be really long. And as a former lender, I can actually attest to the opposite. I think is better. Whenever someone would hand us a 50-page business plan, 75-page business plan, it was a disadvantage for them because there was so much content there was so much stuff there that we would have to skim through that and try to pick out the highlights. And so there's a chance that we would miss important details because it was hidden and all the other extra fluff in there. And so I think a 15-page business plan, a 20-page business plan is plenty. Now, if you need to create a longer business plan just for that exercise and that practice to feel like you have your whole plan down, that's great, do that. Just make sure you have a refined version, a shortened version that is just jam-packed with the important details that you can give to your lenders. All right, we are going to go through here section by section. First up, we have the executive summary. I want you to think about this as like a cover letter for a resume to a job. So it's not going to tell you the person everything about you, but it is going to give them a really good idea. Who you are, what you do, where you're doing it. Do you have any specializations or special services or certifications? That's really important to include in here. Obviously, you have short-term, long-term goals, mission statement, maybe that's fluffy, but definitely you can include that. And then your company description is like an extension of that, but it's just a little more technical. You're gonna have like your legal entity structure in here. You have a target customer in mind, whether that's residential versus commercial. You should probably highlight that in here. If you say both, great, but is your goal to get more commercial or residential? Because I know that can change the business model quite a bit. There is one key point we're gonna highlight later in this video, but I'll just go ahead and say that here in the company history is a place that you'll be able to include those details, just the relevant industry experience here, but we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a second. Okay, your market analysis. Now, this is a pretty important section, and it's going to bring us to key point number 1. And so you'll see what's included in here. You're going to have an overview of the industry. This doesn't mean like Shark Tank version where you're like, the global HVAC market cap is $7 trillion. That's not what this needs to be. This is specific to your local market where you're going to be competitive at. A quick overview of that. So if you're going to say we're primarily going to offer HVAC, I'm saying in Little Rock, that's a 500,000 person city, probably even bigger than that, honestly. So highlight the scope of where you're going to be serving, how many realistically customers are there, what you think, what kind of services are going to be really good there. Competitor analysis, who are your direct competitors? Don't list every competitor, but in an industry like this, you should know every competitor that exists in a 20-mile radius or however far you're going to be traveling, just to understand their specialties, their price points, how big of a market share they have. Is it one big dog or is it a bunch of independent HVAC contractors? So just have an understanding of that. Again, your target market, residential versus commercial, and your market opportunities. So fill all that out. That's important. The main thing that I think can really make your business plan good in this section is providing any example of like tangible research you can provide that you've really looked into this is going to be helpful. So to give your lender the impression that you actually understand the state of the market, the opportunity in the market. So there's a couple ways you can go about doing this. One, the expensive way, you can pay someone to do a market research study and go that route. I don't know that I would necessarily recommend that. That's not necessary. It's not totally necessary. There are free ways you can do this, and sometimes they just require a little bit of hustle or a little bit of grit to pick up the phone or spend some time doing some research. So one quick example I'll show you here is Google has a free tool called the Google Keyword Planner. You can use this for free with a Google AdWords account, which is free. You don't have to create an ad to have an AdWords account. And what I've done here is I've sent my location to Little Rock, Arkansas, and this one had about 500,000 people in it, maybe a little less than that. And I put in these search terms, and basically what this is going to simulate is like when you're on your phone and you search for ice cream shop near me, and then those results pop up, this is basically simulating if I was searching for these phrases while standing in Little Rock, Arkansas, this is how often those search phrases and some data around those search phrases is being searched. So there's some important information here. One, actual search volume, which I'm not terribly interested in. It's okay that this only says 90. There's certainly more than 90 people looking for that need HVAC work, but think about this as like 90 new customers up for grabs each month, maybe. Now, once you win a customer, you kind of have them probably for a long time. What I'm more interested in is the trend, the 3-month trend, the year-over-year trend. So one thing that's interesting to point out, Arkansas probably gets pretty hot in the summer, and you can see the seasonality, which is interesting, people searching for that. So the 3-month change is up almost 500%. So I'm guessing it's getting pretty hot in Arkansas right now, and people are searching for air conditioning repair. So that's interesting. What's more interesting to me is the year-over-year change. So this kind of smooths out the seasonality fluctuations, and it's going to help us get an idea of year over year, is the demand for those services growing? Are people searching for that more? And so this one's interesting, down 35%, AC repair near me, but air conditioning repair near me is up 50%. HVAC servicing near me down 22%, HVAC companies near me up 25%. So it just seems to be maybe an adjustment in the way people phrase it, but overall, the amount of people searching for that is relatively the same. And these are all really small search phrases, so they're not going to be super helpful in regards to that. So not super compelling, tangible evidence here, but this is an example of a type of thing you can do trying to be searching to see what's going on. Now, if you are trying to open up your business and it's in a smaller community, the search volume for that type of stuff is going to be pretty small, so it may not be that helpful, and it might just look more trying to do some surveying. And even like I live in a pretty small town in Indiana, outside of Indianapolis, and so I know that there's only a handful of HVAC people in the area, and I might go look at their reviews, right? And I might see, wow, 2 stars, their customer service is terrible. People aren't satisfied with that. I might even try to call them and say, hey, if I was needing to get something repaired, like how far out am I looking to get that booked? Just to see how busy those services are. Those can give us some good indicators of, it seems like all the HVAC people in my area are booking out multiple weeks ahead. They don't have great reputations based on the reviews. That's another way to signal there's opportunity in that market. So you can get a little creative and do that in free ways, but whatever you choose to do, that's good evidence to include that in your business plan to demonstrate to your lenders you're really doing your homework. So that's an example of that. Okay, moving on. Marketing and sales strategy. So here, the obvious things, but you're going to follow this roadmap. What services or products are you going to offer? How are you planning to price those? How are you going to distribute those? How are you actually going to connect with those customers? Promotion and advertising. So you're going to have a website, you're going to do SEO, you're going to have social media. So all of this stuff in here is required. This is the minimum requirement. You need to have these things in here. What I'm most interested in key point number 2 when I was a lender is a thing called customer acquisition demonstration. So similar to what we just did with market research, there are things you can say that are like, yeah, it's just a matter of fact, this is the market. But then there's example of like you actually doing the research and reinforcing and providing evidence for the opportunity in that market. This is the same kind of thing here. You can say, we're going to have a website, we're going to have social media, this is going to be our pricing strategy. Key point number 2, if you really want to make your business plan shine, is going the extra mile and coming up with examples, creative ideas, or even what's called traction, which is examples of you starting to do that thing maybe before the business even starts. So you can see here example 1 and 2. So example 1 is more of a thing probably like after the business launches. So that's kind of a promotional offer. Number 2 is you can find contractors and people that are willing to partner with you. If you have experience in the industry, that might be easy to do before you launch. If you're a brand new HVAC provider in the area and nobody really knows who you are, that's probably gonna be a little difficult to do before you establish some sort of reputation. But number 3, and this might sound cheesy to you, but this is an example of something lenders might actually like to hear, is maybe before you even launch the business, you start creating a YouTube channel where you're doing HVAC repair tips and home maintenance tips and preventative maintenance and things to look out for when you're paying for repairs, and building some trust and a following there for those types of services, and establish yourself a little bit as a reputable HVAC repair person. And that can open up different doors for different business opportunities, but also maybe win you some customers in your backyard. And so other ways you can do this is just boots on the ground, words of mouth, friends and family, people in the area start building some interest in, like, I think I'm going to start doing this. You can even do it on the side. Like, you have a full-time job somewhere else, you can start offering HVAC repair services in the evenings or on the weekends. Just start grinding that way. So it can be any one of these things. My point is just saying more than we're going to have a website and people are going to show up. Lenders really like to see this is like something unique, right? What are you already doing to prove you're going to have momentum so that when the business launches, you're likely going to have business already versus that build it and they will come mentality. Lenders love to see that. So moving on, operations and management. We're shifting gears here into more of like logistics. How are you going to deliver your services? Who's going to be on the team? How is just the internal business going to operate a little bit? You don't need a ton of detail in there, just enough that your lender, again, is going to be like, okay, they know what they're talking about. But I had alluded to this earlier. Something you can include here, though, is your relevant industry experience. So it's simple, but your lender is going to want to know that you know what you're getting yourself into and you know what you're doing. When I was a lender, we would oftentimes have people who would spend a whole career doing one thing, and then they would decide all of a sudden they wanted to start a business doing something that was completely unrelated, and they had no experience doing that. That's not a guaranteed no, but that does create extra questions. It does create extra scrutiny, a little skepticism from a lender or someone who's a little nervous about that. And so it just creates an additional hurdle to get through that approval process. All that to say, if you have relevant experience, be sure to highlight that. HVAC repair is a specialized service, so it's probably gonna be pretty difficult to get into the industry if you've never done HVAC repair or have relevant experience in that industry. So that's probably a non-starter in this case. But if it's not you, maybe you have great executive or management or administrative skills and your partner or your co-founder is an HVAC wizard, then that's great. Include that. That helps. So maybe a partner or a founder or key employees have relevant experience. Be sure to include that information in the business plan just to make sure you are emphasizing the fact that you do know what you're doing and you can build some confidence there with your lender. Okay, moving on. So that's key point number 3. Key point number 4, this is the big one, financial plan. Now, this is the big one and also the one I think a lot of business owners despise the most because it can be a little overwhelming. And that is financial projections. For a startup, most lenders are going to require at least a couple of years of financial projections, if not all the way out to 5 years. You're going to want to see pro forma statements, and that can just be, again, overwhelming. So I'm going to show you a little bit more here, but included in this business plan section, a breakdown of your startup costs, talk about how much you're going to need, what you're going to use it on, where you're going to get the money from or where you would like to get the money from. See that breakdown here. We've got our revenue projections here. Again, for 5 years, our estimated cost of goods sold, gross profit, net income, some key ratios related to our business performance. the breakdown of our planned monthly expenses. We've got our 5-year income statement, pro forma statement, our profit and loss here. You can see cash flow projection for 5 years. You can also include a balance sheet if you'd like to, a break-even analysis. So I know maybe that sounds like a lot, okay? I'm gonna show you those charts there were made using this template here. This is available at the link down below. You can go to our website, check it out. Again, we've helped 50,000 businesses, more than 50,000 businesses create projections, and a lot of them are using these templates and doing it themselves. It's very simple how this works. These 4 blue tabs, you're punching in your information, right? So what are the things you're gonna need to purchase? Are you putting in any money in investment? Are you gonna need a loan? Then what makes this template really special is that a lot of templates out there for projections, they just ask you what your estimated revenue is gonna be rather than helping you actually calculate it. So this is gonna help you use HVAC specific assumptions to help you calculate your revenue. Makes it a little bit easier. You're gonna spend on advertising. How often do you plan to attract your customers? And as just the owner, these are important key assumptions to understand. What services are you gonna provide? How much do those cost you? What are you gonna sell them for? This is split between residential and commercial, so you can model those separately as if your prices are different, if your costs are different, and your commission structure for salespeople. So this looks like a lot, but again, you're only changing the numbers in the blue sections here, and that's it. And we have a video guide to go along. We answer questions as you need them. Again, you're gonna put in your monthly expenses. If you have any salaried employees, they'll go here. And then it's just gonna generate all of these charts in financial statements for you, automatically ready to go for your lender, both in the 12-month format and annual format. So that was a quick shameless plug. But if you're gonna have that done, if you're gonna pay to have that done, that's probably gonna cost you a couple $1,000s maybe to have a CPA do that for you. That template is less than $100, maybe even like $79 or somewhere in that range. And I'll even give you a promo code at the end of this video to give you a 20% discount on that. But back to the business plan. Key point number 4 is not financial projections, because you need to have them. Those are a minimum requirement. You need to have those included in your projection. What key point number 4 is they need to be realistic. So say you get the template, you fill it out, you've got your projections created. Now you need to do a little bit of homework, which one thing I'll mention is if you get a ProjectionHub template and you fill it out, we'll review it free of charge. We'll give you feedback on it and just answer any questions you have. But something you can do is once you have your numbers calculated, so I'm gonna come back up to here to this information here, and then just do some Google searches based on this. Or if you're comfortable using an AI chatbot like ChatGPT or Bard, you can ask it questions as well. But I'll give you an example here of like a profit margin, okay? So look, what is a typical profit margin for an HVAC company? 2.5% to 3.5% is average. Successful companies at 10% and 25% for companies that do exceptionally well. So let's go ahead and look at ours. 4%, 5%, 6%, getting up to 8%. Okay, so we are well within the range. We're probably even being really conservative, which your lender is gonna like. Erring on the side of caution there. If I ask ChatGPT the same thing, it's gonna give me a little bit more notes, but again, 5 to 15%, 10 to 25%. We're still very much within that range, so that is great. Now, you can do that same exercise for any number in your projections. If you wanna do that for comfort's sake, what is common for revenue numbers? You can see these little percentages here along those numbers. That's to help for this type of thing. What is a typical percentage of operating expenses versus your revenue or your sales, to make sure that you're not planning to spend way more or way less than you would need to in your business. So just do that to just make sure it's realistic within industry standards. Your lender doesn't have this perfect sheet that says this is exactly what the number is going to be, but they're going to be able to tell when things are out of whack or a little off balance there. So just do your research for their sake, but also for your sake, just to feel like you know what to look out for from that. So that is key point number 4 is realistic projections within industry standard data. And then lastly, the appendix down here and the very last key points, key point number 5, and this is demonstrating skin in the game. Now, if you're trying to get a business loan, this applies more so to you, I would say. And this is similar to when if you're buying a home, you're gonna put a down payment on your house and the bank is gonna put a lien on your house. So if you default on that mortgage, you're gonna lose your down payment and you're gonna lose that house. Business loan, when I was a lender all the time, people would say that they received the advice to keep their personal and their business separate, and so they don't want any personal stuff attached to their loan. That's great advice when it comes to bookkeeping and like bank accounts. It is unrealistic advice when it comes to getting a loan or getting funding. because the business owner is the business. Without the business owner, then there's nothing there to stand upon that. So especially for a business like HVAC, you may not have as much collateral. You're going to have some equipment. You're going to have some trucks. If you buy a building, that's collateral. So you're going to commit all that collateral to the loan. If for some reason there's a collateral shortfall and the lender still needs more, they might ask you for personal collateral. That could be a personal free and clear vehicle. That could be a second mortgage on a personal residence. So just be aware, you don't have to come into the bank prepared to give away everything, but just don't act shocked when that is an expectation that they have of you. So I would encourage you just to know what you have available going into that conversation and that process, just to be prepared to, if they would ask for it, that you can consider that. So there you have it. That's the 5 key points, how to make a business plan for an HVAC company. And as promised, let me scroll back up here. If you use PH20BP, you can get that projection template for 20% off. If you have any questions, email us at support@projectionhub.com. We will personally follow up, answer any questions you have. And yeah, like the video if this was helpful for you, and we will see you in the next video. Thanks.